All right, so introduce yourself, and then I'm going to ask you about your upbringing in faith. You just told me a funny story. And then I want to talk about trends in the church and kind of young, progressive, woke, where things are going and why.
So who am I? I wish I could actually answer that question. I've been trying to figure that out
It's not
for
an existential question.
29 years.
Go to your driver's license.
Yeah.
Pick the name.
And I have to do that sometimes, honestly. Like, just remember, all right, this is who you are. You're in the real world. 2022 is not a dream, but it feels like it. But no, my name's Elijah, if people don't know me. I run a podcast on Blaze TV called Slightly Offensive. I've done a few shows over the years, and essentially what I do is a hybrid of reporting and also just entertainment.
Yeah.
It's sort of like... taking like the 1990s view of conservatism in the world, sort of a traditional view, but then bringing like a 2010 troll aspect, like just memeing it and taking it to a level that sort of offends people. And really all that I want to say is like, I think the world is in a position, in a place where we have to just learn how to laugh at it. Like, things are just so insane that people think I'm twisted, but I like laughing at
There's so
bad
much
stuff.
pressure. Unless you can get a little comedy out of it, I think you explode.
Legitimately, like the J6 stuff. I mean, anything. Like, people don't know, like, I was inside the Capitol on January 6th, so I have a real, actual, like, credential from the federal government that allows me to sort of cover events. So I've done real events, like I filmed Kyle Rittenhouse killing, Joseph Rosenbaum, those types of things. So I've been in real situations and have like actually some serious work. And then there's everything else that I do.
Edutainment.
Yeah, edutainment, which is like a little bit like, it doesn't make my parents that proud. I'll just tell you that. Some of it, like, Dad, don't watch that.
Okay, so tell me about your parents, tell me about your upbringing, all that.
Okay, so people don't realize, I don't think I've ever actually said this on a show before, but I was raised genuinely like fundamentalist, evangelical.
How fundamental? Like churn your own butter? There's churn your own butter, there's homeschool, there's no need to do homeschool because the end of the world is going to happen before you graduate. What level of fundamentalism?
It's ironic because in our homeschool we did learn how to churn our own butter. But like,
No, are you kidding?
No, I'm not. I'm not kidding. But I was homeschooled.
Bro, that's next level right there.
Yeah, so like what I was saying, I was like fundamentalist to the point.
Did you make your own clothes?
Well,
did you grow your own food?
I will tell you, I never got new clothes. So there's I was like, we did, and we lived like essentially like we lived in this house on a hill on like an acre of land in La Habra Heights in like a suburb of like very, very East LA. And I was homeschooled.
You're fundamentalist in LA?
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, and that just means you like have had less than 6 sex partners or something now. You know what I mean? Like LA's so messed up. So, but I mean genuinely to the point where I said earlier where we would honestly be so afraid of not going in the rapture that if we were mad at each other, we would like take our clothes off, lay it in the bed so that when like my brother would come out of the bathroom, he would think the rapture happened and he thought he got left behind to teach him a lesson like that. And he would, and he'd be like, "Where are you?" And yelling, like looking for me. And I was like, if you know you're fundamentalist.
Just go up on the roof and just muffle your voice.
Yeah, but like if you're using the rapture to prank your family.
You're officially a homeschool kid.
I think you've made it. Yeah, you've made it into the borderline. You're either homeschooled or autistic or both. I haven't figured out which ones I am, so we'll
fundamentalist. So your dad was a senior pastor?
Yeah, he founded a church it was a Calvary Chapel, but it was a definitely more conservative, and it was like the way that it started was just kind of like internally, and all I knew was homeschool, home, and then going to church. And I went to church about 4 or 5 times a week. And I told people I didn't know it wasn't normal to just go to funerals for fun. So like my outings, my dad would like take me to funerals and weddings, and I just went to a lot of strangers, watched people like, I don't know, their eulogies and stuff, and that was my life. I didn't really do much else.
So how do you get from that to where you are? Is this what rebellion looks like?
Like, oh yeah, no, it's called pot. Like honestly, like I think what it was like because it's LA, like you can only keep the evil out for so long, and that's why I tell people.
Yeah, if you go to the grocery store, it's over.
No, that's my exact point. It's like you walk down the street and you can only push out the darkness for so long. Where it was like, I don't know what my parents were thinking. Like they were trying to protect me from maybe, I don't know, from the world or from ever seeing the world. Like we weren't allowed to have television. Like we could not play video games. I mean, there was nothing. It was all like that.
Were you allowed to play? So there's levels of fundamentalism. It's not fun, but it is damn mental. That's fundamental. But within it, so were you allowed to play cards or board games? Because that's like varsity right there. If you're not allowed to.
No, we were. I mean, I'm sure my dad.
Was that backsliding? Where was that?
Well, yeah. So I was gonna say, like, I definitely know, like, if anything was above maybe even TVY 7 or like G, we definitely could not even go see a movie. But occasionally we would go see a movie.
Like?
I think the first PG movie I saw was probably, what was it? I don't even know, Prince of Egypt. So I think
It was a Bible cartoon.
yeah, but we had to talk about where the inaccuracies afterwards. Like that's like it was like
yeah,
that's
it was
where we were at.
theologically inaccurate.
Yeah, I mean, I learned the word innuendo because my dad asked if the guy at the ticket counter if there's any innuendos in the Prince of Egypt before we saw it. So I was like, oh, what's that mean? So that's definitely, I mean, it was controversy that we saw a PG movie. So I don't know how we went from there to here. I think it's just, wow, I'm feeling pretty crappy about that. I'm like, dang, no, but I think what it was like, yeah, like I went out into the world, and I'm not even joking. The same thing that's driven my politics is that I went and kind of tasted the world for a second. I ended up, my parents ended up later enrolling me in school.
What does it mean to taste the world? I don't understand.
Well, like actually just go into it and like meet real people that are not also homeschooled and that have TVs.
Leave
and people
the compound?
Yeah, like leave the mindset. Like I actually met real people, and it blew my mind because then I thought my parents lied to me about everything. Like I go, like the way they said the world was, this just isn't true. And I remember I smoked pot and I didn't die.
How old were you?
When I smoked pot, like 13, yeah.
Okay.
So I was like 13, and then I smoked pot, and I was like waiting for the lightning to strike, and I was like, I just feel hungry, like So
Yeah.
but I mean, genuinely. So I started like exploring the world because I felt like I didn't know what it was. I felt like I didn't know what the truth was. I felt like. Because like I mean, we were so insulated that everyone I knew thought the world was going to end in the year 2000. I mean, we had the water barrels, the food. We waited at the end of the cliff, and literally we had a clock, and we waited for it to turn 12, and I thought the world was going to blow up. Like that's where my mindset was we were all going to die when the year 2000 hit, and that's like, and then I went out in the world and was like, I feel like I've kind of been brought up in something that I don't really believe and I don't really think is true, and I don't know what is truth anymore. And so I'm going to go out and just seek, feel, and do whatever I want. And I wasn't trying to be evil. I just was like
A big experiment.
Yeah, literally.
So like that's generally what happens is parents will raise their kids to be untainted, but then they're very, very naive. They're not innocent, they're naive. It's not that they know how to avoid trouble, they've never seen it. So how far for you, and I know you didn't mean to get into this, and I didn't know where we were going to go.
No,
it's
Monday. I've never talked about this on the show before, so we're fine.
So how far did you go? I mean, you went smoking pot at 13, and then what does it look like for X number of years until there's some pivot?
Well, I had a great idea, like most teenagers do, where I go, I'm going to try every single drug that's offered to me. And if I don't want to do it, if there's anything that I want to do in the world, if I just don't want to do it, I'll decide in the moment. So I'm not going to say no to anything. Like I'm just going to go out and whatever life brings.
So you just said yes. So you were told no forever, and then you're like, I'm going to try yes?
I was told, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was a dichotomy. It was just this paradigm shift of going, you can have nothing. And I mean, like it was, like, and I don't blame my parents because I think that, like my mom, grew up with an alcoholic, abusive mother and in sort of a kind of a crazy family. Like, I mean, one of her brothers is the longest living hydrocephalic patient, meaning he was committed to the state. His head was like 4 feet long and his body was the size of a baby, and she didn't even find out till she was older she had this brother. Like, I mean, this is a very 70s, 60s, don't ask, don't tell, don't talk. We're a family and we move on. Yeah. So she came with all this baggage and trauma. My dad comes from like a similar background because, his parents are still living. I'll respect him, but he has a pretty intense background. When they became Christians, I think they came up in such darkness and in such misery that it was a kind of like the exact opposite of what I did, where it was like, let's just reject it all and let's shield our family. Let's do something different. I don't think they meant anything, of course, bad by it or to hurt any of us.
Well, it caused them a lot of pain. They love you, so they're trying to keep you from that which caused them pain. That's what most Christian parents do. The intention is good, the result is bad.
Well, yeah, and that's why I think what's so weird is that it's like, so I feel like I had no life skills. Like, I just feel like, I know not to watch TV, but I don't know how to change a tire, So it's like, I know.
On a wagon.
Yeah, I'll go to hell for seeing Hey Arnold, but yeah, exactly. I know, wait, I got to say this. I don't think I've ever shared this with anyone. And I'm on shows a lot, but this is hilarious. Because we had one car, we had a Ford. Was it called like an Aerostream? It was the one that looked like the shuttle from Star Tours.
Yep.
But it was brilliant blue. And because even our physical possessions needed to be a witness for Christ, we hot pink decaled all over it like commit your life to Christ and you'll be saved, and it was covered, and we would drive around in this bright blue vehicle with
no
Bible
wonder you
verses.
smoke weed, bro.
Yeah.
It's no wonder. It was
and like people would throw
inevitable.
eggs at it, and I thought it was because they were like demonically possessed, and I was like freaking out.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, man, I need a relaxation from this like like it was, to me, it was like so extreme, and I just was like, I was unhappy. I felt like I wasn't developed. I felt like I didn't know what it meant to be a man. And I was like, I realized when I got enrolled in school, it was like I was
How old were you when you went to school?
13. Oh, well, yeah, 13.
Is that where you got your pot?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it a public school or Christian school? Or?
It was a Christian school, so.
Okay. So you got dropped off at the Christian school in the bright blue,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh.
March for Jesus.
Yeah, while people are pulling up in their
Sponsored vehicle.
Escalades
Yeah.
and stuff like this, and I'm walking in like, never, like, I'm telling you the anxiety, like I'd never been in a classroom. I had never been around these kinds of things. I mean, I was so afraid of speaking. I mean, even when I had to give an oral report to a homeschool, I threw up on myself. I mean, like genuinely, like just bewildered with trepidation. And I'm just
I
like,
feel like I should give you a hug, bro. It's
Yeah.
been a lot.
it's like, it's been a long, people are like, it's been a tough couple of years. I'm like, go back a couple more decades, you know? So
So
been a
then you
wild
go to
ride.
Christian school and you get dropped off, you go in, and just to cope, you start self-medicating with pot. What happens next?
You know, I really had this like long, and I don't mean this to laugh. I always laugh at the worst stuff. But then I was at this, I got like, I don't know why, but there was somehow I got involved with these like Satanist people that had nothing to do with.
At the Christian school?
They just lived in the area. I don't know. I just somehow made friends with these. They literally were Satanists. And it was like this blue house, and it was like, had pirate flags on it. And I would go there.
That's the other team, bro.
Well, I didn't realize that they were like maybe trying to groom me at the time. Oh, this gets pretty dark. But it's like I was there and they started giving me. They gave me they like put a pill in my mouth, which I didn't know. This is when like ecstasy was coming back on the market because the government did a pretty good job, like from 2002, 2003.
Was that the Nancy Reagan just say no to drugs era?
Yeah, well, they got a certain chemical that for some reason, like the only way to get it was from the Netherlands now, like distributing. So it was like kind of off the market for a few years, and then it came back flooding in at the right time when I started using drugs, right in LA. So I got like in like the $1-2 a pill highlight for people that are still using drugs. That sounds great to you. To me, it like was a nightmare because then I started genuinely like just abusing ecstasy to a point like where I got put in a coma, I got hospitalized. Like I think like I have kidney damage to this day. Like I have some problems because I would like just do like 13, 14 pills in like a 24-hour period. And like at that point, you're like 14, 15 years old and you're doing this. I mean, the damage.
Oh, it's catastrophic.
Yeah, it is catastrophic. I mean, there was times where I couldn't pee for 4 or 5 days. I mean, like to the point where it could have been toxic, like, and you would, like, I just remember having these side effects. And I think nobody was talking about it then because ecstasy was like back in, and I feel like parents weren't prepared. And it was like sort of this movement, and everyone was saying, oh, it wasn't addicting. Yeah, I think it is probably. I mean, I think you can kind of get at least a habit, right? I mean, everyone says weed's not addicting, but it's like, oh, bro, but we'll try quitting it. It's like you smoke every day.
Skittles are addictive.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is. So, what are your parents doing at this time? Do they know what's going on, or they just think our poor son's got health problems, or?
Well, they kept going on these mission trips, and then having like my grandma stay with us. But then I would just leave, and she would have no clue.
Yeah,
like,
you're
even
over
I'd
at the
smoke pot in
pirate house.
She'd be like, "It smells like a skunk in here," and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Grandma, it's a skunk," or whatever. Like, but it was a genuine. Like I feel like there was a disconnect where they just assumed we were doing what's right, and I got really good at like hiding and evading and just being like, "Oh, I'm studying," or "I'm doing this." I got real sneaky.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's real scary is I got so good at living this life to where my parents thought I was okay. But if you look at the pictures, I mean, you can see the skin, the acne, like just from the abuse.
Yeah,
but
your
also,
whole body is just totally
but
toxic.
The hair, there's no soul in the eyes, And so it was like, then I can't share too many details about them, but certain people, I got really into doing blow for a long time, for a while. But I never really liked blow very much. But people just had it, So it's just LA.
Define blow. I mean, you're a pharmacologist for the novice.
Cocaine. I mean,
Yeah.
I was never a coke addict, and I don't feel like at any of this time that I was like addicted to a specific drug, but I was addicted to doing drugs. Like if that makes sense, like to a partying, to like this moment of
just trying anything.
Just going out and just living because there was nothing on the inside. I was so empty on the inside that all I could do was like experience through external pleasure, and that's when I realized. During this experience, then I was like, I just said, I guess I'm atheist because I neither feel God nor know God nor really believe God's real. Like I don't think God exists. So I just sort of rejected the notion of God. And
was that like late high school or when was that?
Yeah, in mid-high school, like probably more like freshman.
That's when you get a little more
sophomore year.
philosophical.
Yeah, just like I just don't believe in God anymore. So it was just kind of a, and I go, I didn't know the difference between an agnostic or atheist or what the differentiation was. I just kind of would like use the different terms. But of course, like to Christians, I'd be like, yeah, I'm a Christian and I love God. And then to people would really ask, and I'd be like, I don't know, and because I don't know. I just didn't know. Like, how could you really know? Like, I saw what God was, what my parents presented, what the people did, and I saw the church. I saw people spit on each other, like spit each other up, chew each other out.
Yeah.
I watched, like, it was so vicious. And in fact, my druggie friends, at least when they were broken, but at least they were cool. Like, they were.
Yeah, they're not going to judge you. They're like,
they
bro,
won't judge me.
You look bad. They're throwing up on themselves.
Right. So it's like I felt more accepted by these people than I did by people even in the church. And it was like, and I knew if I was ever honest with anyone at my church about anything I was doing or did, that there would be immediate consequence.
Your dad would get fired, right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, he'd be put in a wood chipper. The only question would be feet first or head first, but he's going in.
Yeah, no, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, and you think about that, like, oh, my father, my this, my that it's like, and my church was so crazy that, like, I even secretly made a MySpace, and, like, the youth pastor's wife, like,
does that still exist? Do you still have it?
No, I don't think anyone still has it.
Bands still use it.
I know, but it's like, MySpace was what social media was supposed to be. You had control, you could change your code, you had your top 8, you could create your own drama, and now we have algorithms.
Yeah.
So it's now they can create drama for us.
But if somebody wants to find your MySpace, is it still functional?
I pray to God it's not. It's like so embarrassing. It's like, oh my gosh, it looked like, yeah. It's if you see some people have seen, I've showed on my show pictures of myself during those years. I mean, I had two-toned black and bleach blonde hair down to my shoulders.
Like Cruella's kid?
Yeah, I looked like a cross between like a My Chemical Romance singer and Cruella de Vil, but like with none of the class, none of the skill, and none of the wealth. So, just like a loser.
That's fun, man. So, does it ever change? I mean, is this still the lane you're in, or did something pivot at some point?
Well, yeah, no, something did pivot.
Because I think real quick, I think most people today, I think most people on the far left think this is the only option on the right, and most people on the far right think this is the only option on the far left. And so it's this overreaction to stereotypes on both sides. But somehow you ended up, not that far right, but not that far left. What happened to get you there? And still have faith. Because at this point, most people they're done with the church forever. It's like the ex-wife. They don't want anything to do with it.
Well, I think it's two parts, and I don't want to focus on the first part too much, but like I was at UC Irvine studying biomedical engineering, and I just felt so empty. I felt so broken. I sort of lost my aim in life. And men, especially men, know this. It's like if you have internal problems and you're not sure of who you are, you're not sure of what you want, then you don't end up enjoying anything. You end up blowing it in your job, in your schooling, in your relationships. I mean, even if you're older, if you're a father, with your children, if you don't have that spark or the life and the drive, you get really off course. And I'd gotten so off course that I had determined, I'm like, okay, I'm going to kill myself. So I started living like not to intentionally like blow my brains out, but to go, I'm going to live and do drugs at a level to where I'll probably overdose and die, but I'm okay with that, and I would rather overdose and die. I'm just too much of a wuss to actually kill myself at the time. So I couldn't do it. So I was like, so I was laying in a bed and I almost killed myself, like genuinely. I had woken, like was like in this moment over a few-day bender. And I just got done fornicating with my then girlfriend who was with me. And I told her, and I was like kind of like in this moment where I'm going.
Just so you know, that was a fundamentalist glitch. You went to the F word.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. Oops.
Yeah.
So I'll say, so we're there, and I'm like, so empty. And I literally had an existential crisis where I go, I literally just had sex. That's what men are supposed to want. I'm in a good school with a full ride in a nice university. I got drugs, I got alcohol, I got a life, and I had a pretty good job. And I just go, but I feel like I want to die. Like I just really want to die.
Yeah.
And it was this insane urge that I now know to be the devil in my ear of just like, kill yourself. And I couldn't get it out of my head. And so I go, if I'm going to kill myself, and I hold this idea this day, if I'm really willing to really kill myself, I should go try something else literally insane and crazy, because like the worst thing that could happen is I could fail at it and then want to kill myself, and we're just back to where we are, and then we'll just do it. So I did something crazy. I just dropped out of school one day. I just called my mom. I just turned a paper. I just dropped out of school, and I decided to detox and try to like rehab off of what I was on at the time. And the only thing that I knew was a Bible college that I could afford was a Bible college down in Marietta.
Now you're going to Bible college.
Well, I just went there to detox because I knew that, I knew that I could get away and just like change my number and get away from everyone, and that my parents didn't know what I was doing, didn't know the depth of my life. I had gone to rehab at like 16 though already, and so by this point I'm like, I don't want to go to rehab. I hate rehab. I'm just going to go to
just a place where there's no drugs and I can hide.
Yeah. So I went there, and they could tell I was not a believer, and they knew that it wasn't, but somebody gave me a book called Why Grace Changes Everything, and I read it over a few days, and then I was on the toilet, and I had a salvation moment. I mean, like, literally. I mean, talk about losing more than just your lunch. Like, it was a very vulnerable place. But when I understood grace, I think it was when Chuck Smith said that he realized even though, like, he wouldn't even walk on, like, the same street as a movie theater, like, he was that holy and righteous, that he didn't really receive God's grace and love till, like, a decade into him being a pastor, meaning he didn't even understand who God was and what it was, and that he realized that he was no worse than the people that, were going to the porno theater down the street or whatever, that there was no difference, that God's grace was equal, and that it was valuable, and that it was not determined by your self-worth and what you valued of yourself or who you think you are, but who God made you to be.
Yep.
And God made you with value. He made you with eternal worth. He made you with such detail. And that detail wasn't to be wasted. It was to have a plan and a purpose. And that at any point in your life, you can restart, and that God, even if the world, obviously I always say there's two people that remember your past, women and the devil, but God doesn't. And it was like, you don't have to worry about making it right with your friends, making it right with your family, undoing the evil that you've done in the past. Like, you can just give your life to God and he'll change you. And I just go, that's what I need. And I never really heard the real gospel. The only gospel I had heard is raise your hand if you want to receive Christ today. The blood of Christ compels you or whatever, fall down or something. But I'm like, the God connect, right? The soul of man transcended from the flesh and connected with the heart of God. And I felt like a fusion, and I felt warmth, and I can only say
How old were you at that time?
At this time I was 19, I think. Yeah, so I was 19.
I was 19 when I got saved.
Okay, yeah. So it was and then I got up and I didn't know what to do. So then I go to
Flush.
Flush.
Yeah, you got flush.
My wife still tells me that today. No, but I felt like so I go to the mall, and these guys approached me in the parking lot and were like, hey, we were sent to meet someone here, and we want you to receive, just the love and the power of the Holy Spirit, and to like be an anointing and pray over you. And I thought I was gonna get mugged because there was like Mexican guys and like thugs, and I was like, oh damn! And I was like, I'm about to go. I'm
gonna wake up in a Motel 6 missing a kidney.
That's what I was like, because it's like a group of guys, and they prayed on me, prayed and laid their hands on me, and then I didn't even know. I honestly did not know. I thought tongues was fake. I don't know if you even care what you believe in it, but I started speaking in tongues, and then I went into the mall and just started telling everyone Jesus loves them, and got kicked out by security because I was freaking people out because I was like high on the Lord. And I just was telling Jesus loves you and telling people, and like, dude, you can't be like harassing people inside the mall. So that's why now I just do it as a job today. But can't do it in the mall, you can do it online. But so that was basically what changed. It was this major supernatural experience, and being a science background type of person, I wouldn't have believed that was possible. And I still get why people think I'm crazy for saying it, but it was like, it changed my life forever. Now I've had ups and downs in my life, of course, because the world's been crazy, and it has, and my life has not been easy like everybody else's. It has not, but that's really what changed it. Like that's what, so I ended up going to Bible college. I ended up actually re-enrolling, and I went to like seminary at APU, and still ended up getting I still ended up getting my biology degree and, genetic engineering and different things. So I still got best of both worlds, but here's the difference. What changed then was that like I had this high and I was on it, but then when I got out into the real world again, like you're not just in church, and you're not just in culture, you're not just in school, in a private school, and you're not just in this, but you're out in the real world, your faith gets tested. And sometimes you realize how much you're basing on emotion or feeling, and not really on just the truth. And you get tested on your self-control, on your spiritual things. And I think the real testing of the man comes like when you set out and you embark. Because it was when I got like, when I blundered and made like my first real mistake, like when I started getting back into sexual sin after I always say this with Christians, is like, I hate how the story is, and this is why I think so many people leave the church even. One of the main aspects is because we don't have a redemption arc in Christianity anymore. And it's a leftist idea of removing redemption. It's like this idea of, you got saved, and everyone has their testimony of how I got saved. How is it being saved? What is God saving you from even today, right? Well, the whole message is die and go to heaven. And the question is, well, what do I do in the meantime?
Like, I've got some time to kill. And if I'm if I'm young, I've got a lot of time to kill. And And that's the major gap. Because if Jesus only kicks in at the end, you have no compass in the middle.
Well, and that's when I realized even the Christian groups that I was in, my walk with God was so leaning on the body of Christ that when I went through an issue and I started having sex with my girlfriend then, and I was like, hey, I don't want to do this. And I was being genuine. I'm like, I don't really want to do this. I started partying again a little bit because I started feeling guilty, and I held it in because I didn't feel like anyone could listen. And exactly what I thought would happen happened when I opened up to people and was like, hey, to trusted people. I think you have the same mindset. I don't say names to people, but just, you know who you are. When I came to you and was like, hey, I'm actually really hurting inside, and I have this these things that I'm doing, but I don't want to be doing them. There wasn't forgiveness. There wasn't love. It was rejection. It was, you're disqualified. You can't serve. You can't do this. The gossip, the spreading, there was no sacredness of information. And so then it was like the whole church, it put me in this shock state where I'm going, I wouldn't say I got unsaved or I left God, but I think I realized how much my faith was in people and not in the body of Christ, but not in Christ. Because when the church rejected me and sort of was like, oh, you're unclean, unclean, unclean. It was like, go to the camp, get away from us, rather than, hey, you're a human. Let's just work, and where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? Where does God want you to go? Let's align those goals together and let's move together. It was well, there's no redemption. You were saved. How do you go back to your sin? Like a dog returns to vomit. How do you go back? And so then I just popped out entirely. I just completely left, and I just went back into the world, full force, back into all depravity that you could think of. I just snapped back into it. But this time I didn't enjoy it.
So this is
really miserable.
This is really important. So I think for most people who are not Christians, they don't understand that when you become a Christian and you do get a new nature, you get the Holy Spirit, you get new desires. And so Paul says this in Galatians, that the spirit is against the flesh and that it's keeping you from doing what you want to do. And Paul says, I do the things I don't want to be doing, and I'm not doing the things I want to be doing. He's got this frustration. When you definitely, genuinely meet God, your desires change. And it doesn't mean that you're perfect and you work it all out, but what you used to like, you no longer like. And so you go back to your lifestyle, and it becomes something that you just really regret, and it doesn't provide the same satisfaction. And so I think that's the big difference between religion and really redemption. Religion is, here's all the things you need to do, and redemption is, God has done something in here, and I got to figure out how that works out here. And so your story sounds like, and I want to get back to it. So you know what you remind me of? The story of the prodigal son. You're the schizophrenic, bipolar double brother. That's what you are, bro. That's what you are. So you spent 13 years.
You missed one of the diagnosis. You could add a few more.
Yeah. You spent the first 13 years as the older brother in the story, the self-righteous, judgmental, dutiful, but not relational, not redeemed, not just performance-based, sort of, legalistic. And then you decided, I'm going to do younger brother for a while. I'm going to do below and, get a minor in pharmacology and, try to break all the commandments.
Pharmacology, by the way.
Experimental pharmacology. Yeah. Put that on your resume,
Yeah.
Some experience,
Yeah, it's like, I used to work as a pharmacy technician, and you're telling the patient, yeah, I've tried those. Those are pretty good. It'll do the trick. Trust me.
So, but you went between those two.
Well, yeah. And this is what I think is, and I try to get out there, is because I hate people who just aren't real, because let's just be honest. It's you can fumble the ball even if you're the greatest football player in the world. People just are flawed. We do just make mistakes. And I love it when people are even that pastor of, I don't remember what, I think it was Hillsong, New York or whatever. People are like, oh, he made some mistakes in his life, in his marriage or whatever. And I remember people were just they just abandoned him entirely. And I remember just thinking how sad. I remember even Christians talking to me about, people I know in ministry. And I remember telling a Christian, I said, how dare you talk to about one of God's children or one of God's servants like that? That guy the guy blew it, whatever. There's consequences for your actions. That's actually true, and that's totally fine. And so what? He can, whatever happens to him, he's going to have to pay those consequences here on earth. There's always a consequence. There's a reason why God said, though, to even visit the prisoner, that to go to those who are broken, that those who need him, because sometimes God uses our own imperfections to humble us so that we realize what we truly need. So we don't rely on our status or our wealth or these types of things, but we rely on him totally. He'll strip us down, and it's miserable. And I'm not saying anything, but to watch the way that Christians, that's what I'm saying, the redemption arc, talk about Christians who make mistakes was what threw me out of the church. Like I just was like, I don't want to do with Christians anymore. This is stupid. I want to be real and raw. And I'm royally messing up my life right now, but at least I'm honest about it. Like I was like, I'm not hiding this anymore. I'm at least like, hey, I'm out in the open and I'm screwing up because now I'm a Christian and I know that this is against the Bible, but I'm not going to like twist the Bible and reinvent and redefine
You're not
what
going to
sin
go
is.
progressive, red letter.
And I think this is where the political thing started moving. I was like, well, I'm messing up too much, but I don't want to do what's right. So I started getting invested in like, well, I want to do what's right in the world, but I don't want to be held accountable to try to have like this moral code. So I'm going to go into where the worst people in the world are, politics. Like I'm going to go with the sinners. And then even crazier, I'm going to combine the worst place in the world with the most psychotic and just stupid industry, media, and I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to go work out my worldview because I know I'm wrong, but I'm going to go work it out and I'm going to do it on camera. So that was literally what got me into politics was I go, there's got to be more people like me who the church, they feel like it's not for them. The world, they feel like it's too messed up. But even though they've got issues, they want to try to do better. They want to better their lives and they want to impact the world. So I'm just going to go ahead and make my own brand, my own design, my own life. And I'm going to fuse what I know is right with the chaotic nature of who I am right now and just be blunt and upfront and out in the open. And we'll see if anyone receives this. And unfortunately, it looks like there's a lot more screwed up people in the world because a lot of people received it. It got received really
Dude,
well. I mean, it took off.
They are legion. You guys are the majority. Yeah, like normal, healthy people that drink decaf and emotionally process, there's like 7. They're having a conference in a phone booth somewhere. It's not a movement.
I like to meet them.
Yeah.
That's what they say, right? There are messed up people and then there are liars. So it's just
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. So what's so crazy is it's been such a conflict for me because I've been so outspoken about my faith in God, I tell people, well, people go, oh, well, you've got flaws. Like, there's nobody that I feel like gives me more crap on the internet than Christians because I'm openly flawed.
For saying stuff like crap.
I'm like, don't swear. No, but I meant like, people go, well, how can you, when you have done this or, hey, you're doing this, confess God? And I go, how can you, when you want to go fast, admit that you broke the speed limit or admit what the speed limit is? Like, I mean, you can go fast, but don't lie. It's the sign's posted. It says 40 miles per hour. It's like, God's real. I've already met him and I see his word and it's true. If I'm not following it, I just tell people you're too loose with your tongue. And I go, I am. Do you have any advice? Do you have because you know what I mean? Like, the Middle East, it's got issues. It's like, cool, bro. Everyone can watch the news and see that. COVID, it's not that good. It's like, right. But I feel like that's where it's been so difficult. And I think people know this to where you're too honest with yourself to be fake to the world anymore. Like I grew up fake, and then I was in a church, and it required, I didn't drink, smoke, or do anything then, but then when I really did have a problem, they wanted you to be fake, or they would spit you out. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. And then I get into politics and I realize it's the same thing. They're all just liars and they're fake. And so it's like, I just want to be royally messed up and figure my life out and try to figure out the truth together with people. And I'm on a journey and I want to seek that journey. And over the years, I'll tell you, there have been some really highs and lows. To create a podcast and somehow get picked up by Blaze TV, like a conservative news network, people automatically assume you're like this conservative when really you're coming out of this debauched lifestyle and you're just an LA kid. I started with bleached hair. I had a nose ring when I started my podcast.
Bro. It should have started with that. We would have just closed in prayer.
The nose ring?
Don't tell me you've got a tattoo on your lower back. If you got a tattoo on your lower back, we're just...
It's Hunter Biden gave it to me. It was one of our crazy nights. It's true. It was a good night. No, but yeah, I just meant so it's like you go in this position and so you move out. And what's kind of funny is by being honest with myself and being honest about finding out what the truth is and by searching it out, it's actually made positive changes in my spiritual life because the truth sets you free. And the more I've been real with myself, I've been able to get comfortable with myself, and I've gotten stronger. Like, I used to be weak. When I was in the church and I was perfect, living like righteously in the eyes of the church, I was a little bitch. I actually was, because the thing was, when I made a mistake, it's like, oh, I made a mistake. And then what? I let that collapse my whole life. It's like, that's a weakness as a man. And it's so crazy that by following the rules of the church, it actually positioned me to be in the exact opposite of what God needed me to be or to go through. And by just being blunt and honest, and by being an eternally flawed person here on earth, but knowing I have the grace of God, and then wanting to pair up that holiness, but without the legalism,
without the religious veneer,
with the real faith, has given me such freedom to go out into the world and realize I feel like I'm hated by people that are really conservative and liberal. I'm hated by the Christians and the atheists. It's like, I'm just
awesome,
trying to be real.
So one of the greatest weeks of my life, I got protested by the alphabet soup people. I don't know what it is now. The LGBTQIA. I don't even know.
Letters from Greek now. And stuff, like lambda.
Yeah, Roman numerals.
Yeah. Morse code. I don't know.
I identify as a 6. I don't know what that is. And then the next week, it was the Westboro Baptist people showed up to protest me. And it's like, it takes a special skill to get the legalists and the lesbians to align. I
know now the lesbians are becoming legalists. It's all the worlds are crossing. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm having drag shows in churches now. I don't know if you saw that in DC. They're hosting children's drag shows. The churches for ministry, the drag show ministry. I'm like, man, I heard of the coffee ministry, and I know we were kind of extending those ministries a little far, but drag shows, I'll probably draw the line. We'll draw the line somewhere at drag.
Yeah.
You got to go see the pictures. It's literally insane.
I can't, bro. I throw up in my mouth.
Yeah, well,
my dad hung drywall. My grandpa was a diesel mechanic. I don't even know how to emotionally process drag shows in the church. I mean,
right. Well, but I don't either. And this is what I don't know where you wanted to go with this, but this is what I wanted. Maybe I'll just talk.
I don't think it matters, bro. I think you're just going to go.
Yeah, I'll talk this out with you, like of what is really conflicting is. When you're a man, when you're a woman, when you're an adult, and you're out in the world, right?
That's a lot of binary categories right there.
Yeah, I was like...
Very judgy. Yeah, I don't feel safe.
When you're non-binary, when you're trans, when you're trans-adjacent, I mean, they'd be exhausted. I don't even know anymore. But when you're out there, you have a choice. You either, A, fit into a system, and then the parts of you that don't, you hide, you lie about, which is why I think now 11% of Americans are on some form of an SSRI, right? We're
What's
trying
an SSRI?
Like an antidepressent type thing. Like they're literally like 10% of Americans.
Does that include whiskey?
Yeah, well.
Because if not, the number's way higher.
Yeah, I was like, that's okay. Then I'm clinically depressed too. I was like, this is coffee in here. Don't worry, I know.
Yeah.
I am like this. Imagine this is me with no whiskey. So the point is like, you go out there. And if you want to be honest, and if you really want to find the truth, you're not going to fit in anywhere because that's not there's no system to.
Prophets are always in the woods, bro, and they come in to get beat up.
That's what it feels like. It's like, and I'm telling you, it's not easy. Like, I get it.
The prophet always lives the prophet never lives in town. The prophet always lives in the woods because nobody in town will accept them for long enough for it to become a home for them.
Well, and see, that's what I was going to say is like I want to say this to people that are feeling like, oh, I'm afraid to go out into God's calling or to do what I want because, I've got these sins in my past or even in my present, or I've got these flaws or even a disability, like, or something, right, that's keeping you. It's like, dude, I'll be completely honest. Some days, like, I literally almost just deleted my Twitter after I wanted to just write, I'm tired, and then just click delete and just like delete all my social media and just never speak to people again because I go, why am I even doing what I do? It's just like it's an uphill battle. You have tech companies against you. You have all these people who want to keep the status quo like on your side who don't want you to try to break boundaries or make people uncomfortable. And they don't want you to where I do. I always call what I do, like I try to be the pot smoking to right-wing ideas where I want to be somebody who, if you just like craziness or you're out in the world, that you can kind of come here and find a home, but it's backed by truth. And someone had called my show the Christian Howard Stern, which I don't know what that means, but it's like whatever.
So you're like a gateway platform.
Well, and that's literally but that's what the vision when I started. But here's the thing, I'm developing now, and I'm developing as a person. But I was gonna say, like, I'm exhausted as a man, because it's like, friends betray you. People are always, people make hit piece videos about me with things I didn't even know about myself that aren't, they like somehow know things that happen in my life that they're not true. Like, that's a pretty convincing story. I would almost believe it. Like, they'll just come out against you, and people will just tear you down, and it's always trying to destroy and pull you down. You're like, dude, I'm literally not doing this for the money. I'm not, like, I've lost in the last years, hundreds of thousands of dollars in advertising by just choosing to say something that's true, or by, whatever, not redacting something that I still believe. And it's not because I'm just, stupid or somehow mentally handicapped. It's like, no, for defending Kyle Rittenhouse, I lost my biggest sponsor in the entire world, and they turned out to be innocent. And it's like, well, it was worth losing hundreds of thousands of dollars to speak the truth, because unfortunately, I just don't want to lie. So I don't want to lie. And then you get out there and people are like, oh, so you're a truth seeker and you believe in God. And then the atheists and the people come out and they go, but you have flaws, and I've seen your life, and I've seen you make mistakes, and I've seen that you're not always perfect. Now let me try to destroy your reputation, because I want to attack you, because I want people to think you're bad. So you have like the political, you have the religious, you have the cultural, and it's like no wonder why everyone's a fake and a fraud these days. No wonder why people don't even try. No wonder why everyone's such a wuss and men don't do anything. It's because it's like you literally do have to be strong, and unless you know God, unless you've got, something's got to drive you, ego, money, something, but the only thing that can sustain you is literally Christ. And so I got to a point recently where I went, man, I am far from God, meaning I am not close to God to where I should be. I told my wife that, this was several months ago. I said, I am literally not close to God. She's like, how do you know? I said, because I know when I am. Like, I know when I am, and I'm like, I wasn't going to kill myself, but I'm like, sometimes as adults, people know this. It's like, dude, you're just like, I can't do it. I just want to shut this off. Like the world, and look at the world. You look at the world around you, you can't, the institutions, it's not like you can the world makes sense anymore. We're post-2001, or as MSNBC put it, post-insurrection America. We're in a weird freaking stage where you got people with face diapers that worsen their disease, and they still wear them, and they're fat. And you're like, sir.
Oh, dude, I saw a guy.
Problems.
I saw a guy. Oh, I'll tell you a story. So, and then maybe this will turn into a pastoral therapy session. But what you're seeing right now is you're seeing spirit of fear triggering various levels of mental illness. Social media is built on fear, anger, and triggering people who are emotionally, spiritually unwell. That's all that it is. And they're just triggering each other all day. It defies all logic. So let me tell you what the best thing you can do, and this is true for any leader. I say this all the time. So for what it's worth, you become a Christian, you give Jesus your sin. You become a leader, you got to throw in your reputation. It's easy to give Jesus your sin. It's hard to give him your reputation. Once you give him your reputation, you sleep different. And it's not that you don't care, but you only care about whether or not you're faithful. Not successful, not popular, not understood, not liked. It's not a hardness of heart. It's actually the ability to love people from a deeper place, because you're not using them for approval. You're just trying to help. And so the weird place you are is actually really, pretty healthy. I think the conclusion you've come to is right. The question is how to live in that space and be okay with it.
And that's where I think where it was freeing again, and I mean this genuinely, is like when you can be honest with yourself. It's one thing to be honest with the world and talk about politics and the truth about COVID and stuff, but to look into your heart and to God and be like, Lord, I am not where you want me to be. And if I'm not positioned inside, then I cannot affect the outside in a way that you would want, because, there are many, politicians and basketball players and doctors and things, but very few people can admit that they are wrong, and the heart is so deceitfully wicked. And I'm like, Lord, but you know it, truly. And it's like, Lord, I need you. So I was like, I'm going to give my life back to you. Like, I'm going to give my control of my heart, because I realized once again I had some issues with people in my life. Just people have been so cruel recently, and they probably still will be.
Why do you listen to it? Why do you?
They're people that it's like people I've loved, and cared about, and let it. There's just I'll leave it there, and I just that's the point, is I don't need to listen to it. And that's what I'm saying, is I go, God, I don't want to keep doing this cycle, and we need to not do this cycle, because right now there's no room for wusses. The world's getting tougher. Things are getting more expensive. You promised us trial and tribulation. You said, you literally, that people, that families would betray each other, that there would be, that the brother and father and mother against one another. If you'd promised me these things, then why am I going to sit around surprised? What I'm going to say is, you knew this would come. This day and age would be here. Give me the strength, Lord. Fill me with what I need to be the man you desire me to be. This mission is too tough for me, which means that I need to be tougher. Because I hate that verse people misquote, like, God will not give you more than you can handle. I'm like,
that's not a verse. That's in first and second ridiculous nonsense. Say that to people that were
crucified upside down. I'm pretty sure being brutally murdered is a little more than you can handle. But I know it's like about temptation. And I'm like, yeah, Lord, I get tempted to live in fear. I get tempted. Like, he won't give you more temptation. He'll give you a way out. Like, he can give you the way out, even if it lends you to prison. And I'm reminded that sometimes, even when you escape sin or you escape these temptations, it can lead to a temporary trial, like with Joseph, where he actually got put in jail for taking God's way out. And it's like, and I realized, God, but he had joy, and he still made it out, and then God returned him riches and blessing. And so I realized with God, I'm like, Lord, then I'm with you. So I'm like, Lord, well, I want to be obedient. And like, by the grace of God, I don't know how it happened, but I finally made it back to church. I've gone 2 weeks in a row. And I'm like, it's so hard though. Like, I'm in and out. I'm sitting down and I'm like, I'm that person who's out. I'm not even stopping by the coffee.
Yeah, it feels like you're returning to the crime scene, man.
Yeah, I'm like there, and I'm like, yes, I am a little hungover.
Just here for the drag show.
Yeah. Can I go in without children? I don't know if it's possible. You have to have kids to go in. No, but I meant like, I'm like now I want to get things right. But this is where I'm feeling the calling is God gave me a word the other day. And this is what I think, I think it's going to be the message that I'm going to start bringing to people, is as things deteriorate externally. And if you're afraid, I mean, it is hard. I know God has blessed me with a proximal type of income, meaning I could work harder and make more money. So I can do what Biden said, where they said we should love inflation because, it makes us work harder, and working hard is an American ethic. So
yeah, and it allows us to give more money to the government. Yeah,
it's kind of like, you should love getting
super
stabbed
incentivizing.
Because, science is cool and it's fun to go to the doctor and see them work because, healthcare professionals need jobs too. But no, but I go, as things are eroding, the temptation is going to be, oh, my friends betrayed me or my family broke apart. And we saw that with the pandemic. I mean, the vaccination status broke my family apart. I mean, it's crazy. And I mean, that's so stupid, but it does happen. You have to stop thinking, and I need to, and everyone.
Well, vaccinations became the new circumcision.
Yeah. I saw it today. They said it was 98 degrees in the UK, which means they said that it's climate change, and they've shut down the airports because the runways melted in 98-degree weather. And I said, well, they should have been boosted. You know what I mean? You got to vaccinate everything. You got to vaccinate our highways, our runways. That's the key to success. You going through a divorce? Vaccinate.
That's the key to everything. So you know what's going to happen for you? The best thing that's going to happen for you. Do you know what it is?
I hope you're going to say I'm about to win $1 million.
No.
Okay.
Becoming a dad.
Really?
That's when you'll understand who God is. A man doesn't understand who God is until he becomes a father. Once he becomes a father, he understands grace, he understands perseverance, he understands pleasure and approval, because a child never works for your love, they work from it. There's something in you that still sees God more as a master than a father, and every guy starts there. And it becomes this, I'm going to try harder, I'm going to be tougher. And then you reach a point where, like Jesus at his baptism, the Father speaks over the Son and says, this is my Son in whom I'm well pleased. And you and I both know he hadn't done anything. He hadn't preached a sermon, he hadn't cast out a demon, he hadn't performed a miracle, he didn't have a convert. He started from approval. When you're a young man, you're trying to work for approval, not from it. And the religious sequence that you were raised in, it just absolutely, in an abusive, predatorial way, groomed you to have a master-slave relationship with God. So God doesn't love you anymore on your best day. He doesn't love you anymore on your worst day. And the Father heart of God is, and so most guys that are young, they get really excited about Jesus because he's the exemplary brother. But Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father but through me. So the point is, the Holy Spirit saves you, and then you fall in love with Jesus, you meet Jesus, but then the healing happens when you get to know God as Father. And the whole point of Jesus is to get you to the Father. And so, I think where you're at is an entire generation of young men. Most of the churches they went to were high control, legalistic, domineering, overbearing, condemning, and shaming. And most of the things they were taught growing up is what not to do. They have no idea what the hell to do. They have no idea. And so then they exit as soon as they can get out from under their parents, usually, late teens, early 20s, depending upon when you sort of start to launch. And they do the exact same thing you did. They get in a lot of trouble. They're just burdened with guilt and shame, and I know this is wrong, but I hate this so much. And so you are a generational case study in what I think there is a huge percentage of young men. I think that's why they listen to you. They identify with you. So I think the journey that you're on and the reason that it's hard, I think there's a lot of younger brothers that are going to follow you. And the conclusions you come to are the conclusions that you're going to lead them to. So the reason it's hard for you, you're the big brother. And if you're the little brother, it's easier because your big brother goes before you and figures stuff out. And you've got a lot of little brothers. That's going to be your audience online. But once you get to know God as Father, you're just going to live different. You're going to sleep different. You're going to see different. You're going to think different. I'll never forget my oldest. I'm old enough now to be a dad. I started out as the kind of the young shock jock evangelical. I'm way out of bounds. And a whole generation of young guys followed me because I was kind of the untucked big brother, and whether they loved me or hated me, at least they knew I was going to be honest. And then something happens when you become a father. Something starts to change in your soul. Never forget, my oldest son was born. He's now, he's off at camp. He's teaching Bible to kids probably right now. He's married. He's 22. He's doing great. I'm super proud of him. But when he was first born, I remember holding my firstborn son. And I thought, okay, this is like life-changing divine moment. And I was holding him and I prayed over him. And I was like, God, I'm a father and I have a son. And you're my father, and I'm your son. Please use this son to teach me about your heart. And my son crapped on my foot. Just, boom, just dropped that first one, which isn't even on the periodic chart. It's like...
I pictured that right now. I was like, that hit me deeper than it should have.
And I had open-toed sandals, and it was the summer.
I just stepped on my dog's poop with shoes on. I almost threw up.
And I remember I just started laughing. And I thought, you know what? I love him, and this doesn't affect anything because he's my son. Right. Now, if you did that right now, I would have a different reaction. Like if you dropped the deuce on my boot, bro, we'd be done. And the point is, my son lives in a completely different category than every other human being, and he gets to do things that nobody else gets to do, and it doesn't cause me to have any reaction to him that's negative in any way. My devotion is unconditional. You've never probably had that with your father. You've probably never had that with a spiritual leader. And that's probably why you're here.
Yeah, no, I know. It's like, well, it's like I'm going to get a bill at the end of this. How much is this an hour? No, it is.
You're his son.
Well, it is so true. And I think that that's the interesting thing is like, but then what's crazy is then this is why I think where people who do grow up in that end up getting abused by a lot of people because you have that relationship with the authority and with God. I've never thought about it like that. You try to give what you wish you had with God to other people, where you just try to be like, I'll just forgive you. We can move on. I'll open my door. I'll open my house to you. I'll be your friend. I'll do this. And these people just turn around and they'll stab you in the back. They'll abuse you. And you go, I didn't do anything to you. And you're like, I'm just trying to live my life. So you end up with all this chaos in trying to do this. But it's like, I feel like it could be a form of weakness.
Do you know what that's called?
What?
Ministry.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like it's hard.
Just you don't put a category of wrong, attack, abuse, cancel. Just put this category. That's ministry. Because we're not Jesus. That's for dang sure. I mean, you've got a pot problem, and I've been canceled so many times. I'm into the zombie rounds at this point. So, but at the end of the day, if you just look at the life of Jesus, that's ministry. Family rejected, disowned, lied about, smear campaigns. He heals a guy and they weaponize it. Well, he did it by Beelzebul, the prince of demons. You're like, you weaponized a healing. Like that's amazing. So even the good things he did, they created a negative narrative to destroy him. And so that's ministry, bro. I hate to tell you this. You're in full-time ministry.
It's like me looking for the whale to swallow me. I'm like somebody. No, and this is what's so what's crazy hearing you say that is paired with what the Lord told me. And this is a crazy connection. Is the Lord told me like the key thing is going to be for myself, and also just to share this with people, is that I've got to take control of what I can control, because God has given us control over ourselves. He's given us self-control. It's one of the fruits of the Spirit. And that there's no structure, there's no system that can outdo the God's authority and his ability to make that fruit in you if you will just put your roots in him. And so it's like, they can take away your money, they can take away your life, they can take away what people think about you. And people are good at that, and that'll happen. But they cannot take away the things that come from the fruit, which is the love, the joy. And if you have the joy and you're able to have the self-control and you're there, then you can make improvements that allow you to have the peace that passes understanding down in the depths of your heart. And if you have peace, then you win, because it's like the turbulence and the chaos, even in the storm, like God can still walk on water. Like you can still be in sort of this position to where he says to the storm to stop, and it stops. And so it's like, I realize that like a lot of what we think is happening with the world that's freaking us out, or that even freaks me out, is really just a symptom of not being at peace on the inside. And the ministry thing makes me so angry at you right now. I want to punch you in the face. So that I'm not really, but no, but I mean, like, because what sucks is like, I used to be a youth pastor, and like, I have tried so hard to run away from ministry, because it's like, I grew up in it. And to me, ministry is just like this. It's basically you work for 30 years and you do something dumb or something, or even just piss the wrong person off, and everyone acts like you've never done anything to serve the Lord, and you didn't, help them through their divorces and through their pornography addictions. Like, to me, that's what it is. To me, a ministry equals abuse. And like, I've always,
of course,
like, I grew up in a ministry home, and I've just watched people like do things, say things to my dad and to my family, that is just so wicked and so evil that like the fear of that word, the M word, it's like, that's the one part of the LGBTQ. Maybe that's why they're winning, because they don't have ministry involved in it. So they don't have the M yet. So they're still growing. No, but the ministry to me is like, it is really, and I mean this genuinely, like, it is scary, because I get Jonah. Like, I've always like related to no one in the Bible more than Jonah. It's just like, these people are forsaken. I'm going somewhere else. And to me, it's like, that's how I feel even with the church and with everybody. Like, it's hard for me to sit in the seat, let alone to ever think about even holding the door open.
Ministry's your whale, bro. I mean, it just swallowed you up and spit you out, and that's where you are. So what you're doing is a digital platform ministry. That's what you're doing.
Oh man, that's got to shape up. it's like people watch my show. I always say this. I'm like, you got to be a pretty sick person if you enjoy the show, because we look at the craziest stuff. And I was going to say this too. I've watched, like you even said how it makes you feel sick, is I always read these comments and it trips me out. And this is what I was laughing about with my wife. I go, maybe there's like 19 comments in here that are people are like, man, this show really helps me to follow Christ. And I'm like, the title of this show was Incestual Gay TikTokers like get married or whatever. And the crazy thought of like that even being a real thing, and that's allowed on the internet, but you can't like criticize trans people. Remember, like, you can be an incestual gay TikToker. Literally, I'm pretty sure incest is illegal in every state. Maybe not Alabama, but I don't know yet. People do what they do.
Even if it is, they can't read, so they don't know what it says.
Yeah, it's like, I don't mind. Yeah. But I was gonna say, like, I look at that and I'm like, but we do talk about the truth, and we do look at it and we're like, this is just weird and this is strange. And by kind of going on this journey, people do keep coming to know Christ, and people keep telling me every day, like, you get messages every day, I'm coming to know the Lord through your show. And I'm going, sometimes I feel guilty about making it, so that's good. Because like I'll like see things, I'm like, is this legal? Like I get videos age restricted. Like I think we all find out all the time. It's like the YouTube's just like, this isn't for children. And I'm like, I literally clicked the button before I uploaded it, not for kids. So what do you mean it's age restricted? But I mean, like, with the stuff we look at is so crazy in the world, and it's so insane. Like, what do you mean a child drag show is not for children? Thank you, I agree, YouTube. Let's age restrict this. If you got, so you can go to a child drag show in person, but if I put it on your platform, it's now age restricted. You know, like Hunter Biden can maybe allegedly be with young children overseas, but we can't talk about it, you know? Like, I mean, that shows you they know that what they're doing is dark and they don't want it exposed. And that's what had been my goal from the very beginning, was like, let's expose this. And you know, now everyone knows TikToks, but we were one of the first shows that started looking at TikToks many years ago and exposing the dark recesses of where woke people were going. And people mocked us. And this is what I always think. I said this to my producer, Josiah, who's out there sitting. And I go, you know what, man? What's crazy of where we're at is that we're never going to reap the full reward here on earth. We're never going to really reap it. And meaning this, I saw TikTok and we see that it's dark and we want to expose it's like the most peak SJW culture. In the beginning, we don't get the views. People say political shows should not be showing TikToks. This is immature. This is not right. And now you watch any political show, that's basically a third of their show is just looking at TikToks. And we don't look at them anymore really at all. We kind of went over that phase. And I know that some of the biggest shows in America, you know, I got their producers to start doing that, and I regret that. And also, I mean, people like, you know, Joe Rogan follow me and have mentioned some of the stuff early on that we were following. There's even an account that I helped, you know, blow up. She thanked me, called Libs of TikTok, that is now got millions of followers, and now everyone uses as a source. But meaning we don't get recognition, we don't get anything. And I think kind of exposing even just what's on that platform to the world, the fact that people see how dark the world really gets. I mean, there's nowhere scarier other than the mind of a teenage boy than in TikTok. I mean, because that is just pedophilia, neurodivergence, which is like making your autism, your gender, you know, incest, sexualizing little girls, you know, dancing like adults in like no clothes, and that's allowed, all that type of stuff. It's so strange. That's able to be exposed to the world, and it's like, yeah, maybe no one knows that we did that, and maybe, you know, it's not really gonna, like, we're not gonna get money for doing that, and we're not gonna get like some sort of award on, you know, Medal of Honor. Actually, no, that's so dumb enough to get a Medal of Honor from Biden. He gives to like Ellen, right?
But it's ministry, buddy.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, that's been my goal. Like, I saw it's dark. Let's go. Let's put
the light in the dark.
Let's go. And it has changed. It's created a different cultural shape.
And do you spend any time? We close with this. Probably run out of time. An interesting conversation. Thank you. I didn't know where we were going to go.
I never do.
We'll reverse next. But sometimes in the Bible, everybody is living in a dysfunctional, dark, kind of broken context, and then the prophet lives out in the woods, walks in, says something, and people listen to it, even though they don't have any qualifications from the institutions or from the official, you know, paradigms. And that's like John the Baptizer. He's the homeschool kid, you know, who decided to dress up like a Jedi with a robe, and then walks in and says a few things, and everybody listens to him. That's the eccentric nature of the anointing and the gifting on your life. You walk out of the woods, you say things that when you say it, people are like, oh, I see that, but they didn't see it before, or they didn't have the courage to say it. And I haven't listened to your show, so I don't know what you say. And I love you. It's good to meet you.
You're a good person.
Yeah, I mean, you just convinced me not to tune in. But within that, then the prophet goes back to the woods, and the prophet is usually very misunderstood. They're highly eccentric. When they come into town, it gets so heated that at some point they have to go, and eventually they're trying to crucify and to cancel and to kill the prophet. And sometimes God asks the prophets to do things that are just weird. Like, have you looked at Ezekiel?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like performance art for prophecy. God tells him, okay, take a dump and cook your dinner over your dump. It's in there. And so he negotiates. He's like, well, can I use cow dung? I mean, it's like, there was never a Veggie Tale about that,
right?
You know,
Veggie smells, Veggie Tales, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, kids will be like, you know. So, but at the end of the day, it's like sometimes God takes eccentric people with eccentric perspectives to say and do eccentric things because no one is listening or paying attention, and that's the angst of your role. But it's ministry. And let me say this, your approval will never come from anyone, but God's approval for you is you're his son, man. He loves you. He cares about you. Not just your performance, not just your influence, not just your impact, you. And I'm telling you, once you have a kid, that's going to be one of the brightest moments of your whole life. You're going to understand God in this fresh, profound, deeply healing way. And so right now, though, I'll just tell you right now, you are the big brother who's the eccentric prophet. And that's a lonely place to be, because even the brothers you're trying to help, sometimes they don't understand and they hate and they attack you. And it's brutal. So I would just tell you too, make sure your wife stays off of the internet, that you guys can just have a marriage that's healthy. And for you, you're going to need to take a lot of time. Just turn off your phone, disappear, go for a walk, just spend time with God. Because at the end of the day, what happens for the prophet hears from God, they speak, and then the people attack them, and then the people want the prophet to talk about them. Engage, fight, argue. And as soon as you do that, you're no longer hearing him and you're no longer responding to him. And it's a demonic tactic and a ploy. And so for you, it's just keeping your head and your mind clear. But that's going to be time in creation. That's going to be time in prayer. That's going to be time with your wife, and making sure that your friendship with your wife is the most normal relationship that you have, and that she becomes, how do I say this? If you're going to be a prophet, then your wife needs to be your pastor. Pray with you, love you, check in on you, care for you, be your friend.
She's got to be the sweetest person in the entire world. And, oh yeah, you should see what people, I tell her, I'm like, just don't check your DMs, baby.
No, I'd get her off social media.
Yeah, well, she doesn't go on that much anymore because people just, they always try to go after her to get me. And like anyone that tries to go after my marriage or my wife or anything like that.
Wait till they go after wait till they go after your kids.
I would kill them. That's
where I'm at. I'm now old enough that they've gone after my kids in a very brutal, public, and at certain occasions, criminal way. And at the end of the day, that's how sick the world is, and that's how sick people are. And some people think that still kill and destroy is a ministry that God has assigned to them. So they have this, the worst people are the religious people who are jihadists for Jesus. Those are the worst people.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and that's what I was going to say too, to any Christians out there that are dealing with that. It's funny because like BLM, the Burn, Loot, Murder organization, if you notice, anything that kind of is dark or from darkness is always about tearing down and not
deconstruction.
It's not about building. Constructing. And so I just, people think, oh, I'm doing the right thing by destroying. It's like, bro, you sound like George Bush in 2003. Let's just bomb Iraq and that'll fix it. It's like, that's when that's not how you Operation Rebuild Iraq. It's like, bro, that's $1 trillion worth of bombs to build. I've never heard of a building with explosives. So it's such an insane thing. That I've noticed that is really a hardship. And I think that if you ever want to tear people down or do things, it's like, I always notice that where explosives are actually beneficial is in mines. It's underground. It's where it's unseen. It's private. And so it's like, if you want to help people, if you want to do things, if you want to go out, it doesn't mean you don't abandon people. It doesn't mean you don't point out people's flaws. It doesn't mean you don't try to help your friends. But to blast things, to try to put it on a public pedestal, to try to tear down and be this sort of like public demolition derby, group, it's just wicked and it's sad. And like look at 2020 when the nation itself shifted to try to justify destruction. It's our country. I don't know how long it's going to be if we ever can heal from that. I mean, that year has destroyed the fabric of our country. It has destroyed us. And even if you want to say, well, it hasn't been the same since 2001, well, look at how they changed the police state through destruction. They blew up buildings. They literally imploded buildings. Who are they? You can watch my show and find out. But I meant like they murdered people to create a police state in this nation to move us towards a one world government and one world order towards the end time. So it's like they use destruction in the world. And so in the church, in Christ, we need to not emulate the devil's tactics. We need to realize what God blew up was himself. He sacrificed himself, right? That's what it was. And that's the truth. And the only time that he really wiped things out was like totally in a complete judgment. He wiped them out, but you're not God. And it's like, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. And there needs to be this unity. And to all those people out there, even though, like I say, you're supposed to leave vengeance up to God. I mentioned earlier, I am the hands and the feet of Christ. He said that. So I'm asking to volunteer to strangle you guys that are out there that are wicked, but I probably have not been in that position. And I just know, like, man, choose a better path, choose a better life, because we have so much going ahead of us. There's so many enemies, and there's real wicked people out there, and there's real problems, and the world is not about, and God is not calling us to just deconstruct, decolonize. These are all worldly, earthly things that move into a communist world without God, where we're all seen as equal and expendable. I don't want to live in that world. I want to live in a world of dignity, and a world of respect, and a world of love. And that comes with not only respecting God, but the dignity of your own heart, and also your fellow man enough to love them and to not take this negative aspect. And so just choose a better life. That's all I want to say to people. It's like, just choose not to do that. And if someone's doing that to you, just pray too. Pray that your heart doesn't get hard, because bitterness, that's what I've learned. You either get bitter or you get better. And so when people stab you in the back, when they lie, when they slander you, I mean, I'm a public figure. People make videos about me, like that, and 99.999% of it's untrue besides my name. And usually in the beginning, it's like, oh, this is Elijah. I'm like, the true. And then it's lies after that. God still loves them. And I know that. And even if I struggle with hatred or bitterness, I've learned to let it go. I'm letting it go. I hate nobody anymore. But I could, because God's given me the chance to just let go of the hatred, let go of the bitterness, because then they end up winning. If you stay bitter, if you stay paranoid, if you stay fearful, you lose. But if you can get out of that box, out of that trap, just let your enemies do what they do and let God take care of it. Sometimes you might need to knock someone out, but it's occasional, and hopefully the police aren't around. But yeah, let God take care of it. Then you end up living a free life, and nothing will make them more angry. Nothing makes the haters more angry than just enjoying your damn life. Like, I'm telling you, just living prosperously and having a good life despite them, they'll spite you. They hate it.
They do. And I mean, I had somebody come up recently, and they're like, somebody said something negative about me. I won't say what or anything, and they're like, so what do you think about them? I said, I don't think about them. I don't know what they said.
Stealing that.
I mean,
yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, if their goal is to rob my joy, store's closed.
I'm just going to take that. That's a good shirt. You could make a logo. What do you think about that? I don't. Literally.
Amen. Thanks for the time, brother.
Hey, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.